What's up, guys? This is Coach Alex VanHouten with Better Daily. I'm really excited about our seminar tonight as we dive into superfoods. This is going to be an awesome conversation about things that we can be adding into our dietary habits that can do our body good. Some of them you might have heard about, some of you might not have. But one of the things that I made sure to do in this particular seminar, if you're interested in doing further reading, is I tried to break it down and make sure that you had all the work cited in your notes so that you can look up different things that we might not have gotten into this evening, but that you're interested in. So the way this evening is going to roll, our agenda for our seminar is I'm going to do a few group updates. We have some lives going on this month. We have a connect in 2 weeks that would be awesome if you could be a part of. I think you'll enjoy it. And then we also have the Faithful 40 challenge coming up. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to do a couple group updates. Then what are superfoods? We're going to dive right in with what's the definition of a superfood? What are they? What aren't they? How do we use them in our dietary practice? That sort of thing. And then I'm going to highlight a superfood resource that's in Better Daily, and then also talk about the actual book, the volume that it comes out of. And then we'll go into my top picks. So tonight, I hope that you actually walk away with some things that you're like, you know what, I've never heard of doing that. I'm going to try that. Or wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that that thing might help me with X problem. Or I have a friend who might benefit from this sort of thing. You'll see how that kind of connects the dots. And then we'll have some open discussion after those top picks and a day in the life. So that'll be our evening. From the group in Better Daily, we're headed into August. If you haven't got an opportunity to look at our calendar yet, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the group. You'll notice I'm going live. We're doing Monday mindsets, nutrition tips on Tuesday, our wild cards on Wednesday. I did our first word of the week this week, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was on courage. And then tomorrow will be Flex Friday. I'll be reviewing a very particular movement pattern and helping with abdominal structure. So that'll be a lot of fun. And we also have, if you'll check it out on the 17th for Tuesday, we have a connect. And normally when we get together in Better Daily, it's a seminar or a workshop from a health perspective. But Tuesday's connect on the 17th is more about getting together with our Betterment family and getting to know each other just a little bit better. We'll have a fun activity to do that'll help us to get to know each other well. And it's more like a virtual hangout. So well, don't bring your coffee, not at 7 p.m. But there's some ginger tea you want to sip on or something, which we'll talk about tonight, then that would be a good place to bring it to. And then last but not least, we have our Faithful 40 going on September 1st. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that in the application. But get stoked because the Faithful 40 is our community challenge, and it really inspires and brings the group together with regard to betterment in our world. So I'm really looking forward to that and hope you are stoked too. Tonight, as we cover superfoods, there's some things that you'll definitely be able to incorporate into the Faithful 40 challenge. So what are superfoods? Superfood is actually kind of a marketing term. You know, it sounds cool. So if you label something a superfood, then, you know, maybe you should do that. And one of the questions that we had just prior to this seminar, which was really powerful, asked, you know, hey, as we talk about superfoods tonight, is a superfood something that can offset, you know, poor habits in a diet? You know, it's one thing to add it to my good diet. It's another thing for somebody to try to add superfoods to their diet, and maybe will that offset? Will that be good? So let's talk about what they are. First, it's important to understand when we're talking about superfoods that our food is more than calories. And what I mean by that is our food has properties that the energy expenditure of the food doesn't describe, right? So calories are a measure of heat energy that's given off by the burning of food. So cardboard has calories. I don't know if you knew that or not, but if you light cardboard on fire, it gives off heat. That's the cardboard fuel plus oxygen yielding heat. So cardboard has calories. I wouldn't advise you eating it or relying on it for any particular amount of your nutrition calories, for instance, but cardboard does have calories. So do Skittles and so do spinach, right? So if I had 100 calories of Skittles in one hand and 100 calories of spinach in another, and I said, which one's better for you? Even my 6-year-old would say, oh, spinach is better for you, Dad. He wouldn't be able to tell you why, but the reality is that the property of food has a lot more to it than just the calories inside the food. So when we're talking about superfoods tonight, it's important to understand that what makes a superfood has a lot to do with some of the underlying properties of the food itself that we're ingesting that are nutritious to us in ways that have nothing to do with energy expenditure. So if you had to pick which one's more super as a food, Skittles or spinach, I hope everybody would say spinach, because the sugar and processed garbage and God knows what else is in Skittles has a very different effect on your body, your digestive tract, your metabolic system, your brain chemistry, even versus the fiber, phytonutrients, and even protein that's present in spinach. So the other thing you need to know about superfoods is that food has a macronutrient composition. We've talked about this a lot in Better Daily: protein, fat, and carbohydrates. In each breakdown of those, protein made of amino acids, fats made of different chains of fats and fats with different properties, and then even carbohydrates. Some of them are easier to digest than others. Some of them spike your blood sugar. Some of them feed your gut bacteria. So a superfood would ideally put together these macronutrients in a way that is positive and beneficial to the body, in a way that's hard to find in other foods. So tonight we'll talk a bit about sardines or fatty fish in general, but from a macronutrient composition, we would say that fatty fish are a superfood because it's hard to get that quality of macronutrients from other foods. Micronutrient composition. So micronutrients are things like our vitamins and our minerals, right? Micronutrients, when you take a multivitamin, that's really what you're trying to do, is you're trying to shore up gaps in your food intake from a micronutrient perspective. So something like hemp hearts, for instance, would be a superfood in relationship to micronutrients. Hemp hearts have magnesium, they have manganese, they have potassium, they have phosphorus, they have a large amount of vitamins and minerals that are hard to find in large amounts in other foods, right? So micronutrient composition plays into the definition of a superfood. We've also got electrolyte composition. So here in Arkansas and perhaps in other places in the US right now, we're sweating a lot. We're constantly getting rid of the electrolytes. And it's not just sodium, right? Sodium is one of the electrolytes, but we also have potassium, we also have calcium, we also have magnesium, we also have zinc. So there are several electrolytes that might play a role in making sure that we could say a food is actually beneficial to us in the long run. So I jokingly put pickles in here, but this is a thing right now. We're in our house, we have a lot of cucumbers coming out of our garden, and we are home canning pickles, and the vinegar and the canning salt and then the reactions that happen with the cucumber actually in the jar are a great source of electrolytes. And anybody who enjoys home canned pickles can get a whoop whoop, right? Because those are great in the summer. That might play into what we would call a superfood. Also, pre and probiotic activity. That is to say, there are foods in our diet that can support our microbiome. There are foods in our diet that can actually benefit our digestive tract by increasing the good bacteria, the stuff that makes a leaner version of us, the stuff that makes us less depressed, the stuff that makes it easier for us to fall asleep on time and wake up on time. There are foods that can support that. So I've listed kefir and sauerkraut here. We'll get into some of my top picks in a second, but those are good examples of pre and probiotic active superfoods. And then we've got, and hang with me here because this sounds really chemistry wise, but polyphenols, carotenoids, and other bioactive compounds like antioxidants, for instance. These are compounds that we don't really understand how they affect our body. Like we understand how protein affects our body. We ingest it, our body breaks it down, it uses it to create enzymes and to build tissues back stronger and that sort of thing. We understand how protein works. But there's a polyphenol in cinnamon, for instance, which we'll talk about in a bit, that actually seems to be an anti-carcinogenic agent, meaning that for tumor growth, this particular polyphenol seems to neutralize tumors. And similarly, there's a polyphenol in ginger that's antiviral. And so in consuming ginger, there are active chemical reactions that the polyphenol will tear apart viral RNA. And that's really powerful too. So polyphenols, carotenoids, and other bioactive compounds, we're really starting to learn what some of these foods actually have in them. We don't know why they work, but we can start isolating these compounds. And these are things that are heavily studied. where they do double-blind placebo-controlled trials to understand, are these things having an effect or not? And so aloe vera, which we'll talk about this evening, in coffee even, these are examples of superfoods that would be in this category because of polyphenols, carotenoids, and other bioactive compounds. Now, I do want to address, we're going to talk about some superfoods today that in the Better Daily group there's resources for, and I put a link in your notes. If you go to betterdaily.live/superfoods, this will direct you to the place in the app where you can find this PDF resource. A lot of what I have to say this evening comes as a foundation of the work of David Wolfe. He wrote the book called Superfoods, the Food of Medicine and of the Future. And this was about 15 years ago. I had a great workshop with him as a part of my health coaching certification, and I really enjoyed it. He doesn't include any animal products in his superfood foray, so I did. But that said, his book is great, but the research that I cited in your notes actually comes from places you can find online, where you can actually dig into some of the WebMD articles and whatnot if you're interested in the studies that have been done on things like aloe vera. So that's all in your notes. But if you want a printout with several other superfoods that I'm not going to mention this evening, but you're interested in looking into that for yourself, that resource is there for you. So before I get to my top picks, I do want to address that question and also open it up before getting to my top picks about the definition of superfoods here for those of you who are live. I did want to get to that question though at the very beginning of the seminar, which was, hey, with regard to a superfood, can I add superfoods to my life without making other changes to my dietary habits and expect that to be positive for me? Let's say worst case scenario, I kind of eat like garbage. Let's say I eat Twinkies for breakfast, I've got pizza for dinner, and I'm going to add ginger because Alex said that was good for my testosterone, right? Is that going to be beneficial to me? And that's a great question, because when we're talking about foods, it's not just like, you can take something that's going to cancel out your garbage nutrition. But I would say that with regard to the psychology of food, when in the past, that working with clients, I've found that the crowding out method of improving your nutrition is actually a very powerful method. And what I mean by that is, if I tell somebody, look, pizza's really bad for you, stop eating it for dinner, like, what's wrong with you? Don't do that. They're like, okay, no more pizza. And if I say, hey, you're drinking too much soda, you need to stop that, quit drinking soda. And they're like, okay, I'll stop drinking soda. And if I'm like, hey, ice cream before bed, you got to stop doing that too. Eventually what happens is people start going, well, what can I eat? What should I be eating instead? What's good for me? And that's difficult, because if I tell you, don't think about a white polar bear, what's the first thing that you do? Oh crap, I lost already. I'm thinking about a white polar bear. When it comes to cutting things out of your diet, oftentimes it doesn't work out as well as if you add good things into your diet and crowd out the bad, right? So if I said to somebody who's drinking soda all the time, I said, hey, did you know that you can add X, Y, and Z to a tea? It would taste really good. And maybe you could replace one of your sodas every day with that. And try that. Let's see how it goes. What happens is they add this superfood in their life because maybe it's going to boost their energy, and maybe it's going to help them be a better fat burner. And maybe they believe it's going to give them a little more energy than their soda. And hey, at the same time, it can replace something that they already knew was a problem, right? That's actually a very powerful psychological tool, because what happens when you crowd out is the person starts adding things into their diet that they're doing because it's good for them. And it may or may not actually crowd out the garbage, but because they are consciously and actively trying to improve their life via nutrition, they start looking at other things in their life and going, are there other things I could swap out? Are there other things I could be doing better? Right? Now, that's not always the case. I do know some people always like, hey, I did this, but no big deal, because I added kale to my smoothie this morning and that's going to fix everything. That, there is that mentality, and they know who they are, dang it. but to the question earlier, superfood is a powerful concept that wraps people's heads around looking at their nutrition in a different way and starting to think about, what can I eat that's good for me? What can I eat that's going to be beneficial to me? What can I eat that's going to help me feel better? And then they start looking at the things that they're eating in their life and starting to notice that, oh, this makes me feel like yuck. Like, I don't want that. Why would I eat that when I could have that instead? So it's a great question. I think that psychology is important, and I do think that there is something to playing up something that's powerful in somebody's life so that they start looking at their food a little bit differently. So thank you for that question. Uh, I did want to I did want to make sure that I got to talk about my top picks, because if you type in superfoods to the internet, like I said, this is kind of a marketing term in the sense that, hundreds of them will pop up. You're going to be looking at kale, and cashews is a superfood, and avocado is probably a superfood, and olives are a superfood. Like, basically anything that doesn't come in a neat package is probably a superfood. But I have some very specific reasons why I'm going to highlight these this evening, and I'll run through this in your slide notes just real quick so you can see. I have screenshotted some of the actual articles of research and some of the things that are from a 10,000-foot view, just some snapshots of how these things have been studied and what can be said about them, so that you get a sense of just the depth of research that are behind these particular superfoods, and why I'm such a big fan of them and recommend them regularly. That said, there are other superfoods in the world, some of them perhaps I'm not even aware of, which is great. And that's why I pointed you to David Wolf's work. So first, my favorite superfood of all time is aloe vera. Aloe vera can give you electrolytes. So if you're somebody who is sweating a lot, or you find yourself getting a lot of cramps and that sort of thing, aloe vera can be really powerful on that front. But the most powerful effects I've seen with aloe vera have to do with the polyphenols in it that help with digestive inflammation. So if you have sunburn when you're a kid and your mom was like, oh, we're going to rub aloe on it, and that kind of helps it heal faster, that's actually a very similar process that aloe vera juice or aloe vera gel, when ingested, affects the small and large intestine. So aloe vera, I believe, was primarily responsible for helping me out of an ulcerative colitis flare up last year, which I'll continue to swear by in a positive way. And all those that I've recommended aloe vera to, who are wrestling with digestive issues, have all seen marked improvement. And in the notes that I connected you with from the research perspective, there have been several studies done on irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, UC, ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's disease, where just the simple ingestion of aloe juice every day, about 4 ounces, made a positive and lasting effect on each of these within 6 weeks. So that's awesome. If you're somebody who's wrestling with digestive issues or whatnot, I highly recommend aloe vera. I'll talk about how I've incorporated that into my day today, so it's not like, when do I drink it and how does that work and all that. My second favorite superfood of all time is turmeric, which is a seasoning, and the active component that we've isolated and understand pretty well is curcumin. That's in turmeric. So turmeric can decrease inflammation. It can decrease pain related to arthritis, and it also seems to be something that we can use to increase BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That's like miracle grow for your brain cells. That's what actually you get from exercise. That is mostly beneficial to brain growth as well. Why curcumin has actually been studied to reduce some of the onset of symptoms of Alzheimer's and dementia, which is pretty powerful. Now, I did put a note here that turmeric is best paired with black pepper. There's a compound in black pepper called piperine, and piperine increases the absorption of curcumin in the digestive tract by about 2,000%. So ingesting turmeric with black pepper seems to increase some of the beneficial things that curcumin can do. And then curcumin's also been studied in reference to depression. So there was one really powerful study, and I think I stuck it in your slide notes as well, which was they had 3 groups. In this group of 60 majorly depressed people, they were majorly depressed for 2 years. There's a group of 60 of them, and they were put into 3 controlled trial groups. One was a Prozac only group, which is an antidepressant. One was a curcumin only group. And then the third was a Prozac and curcumin group. And 6 weeks later, the Prozac and curcumin group was doing the best, had the most reduction in depression symptoms. The curcumin group was second, and then the Prozac group was third, meaning that curcumin outperformed Prozac with regard to reduction in depression symptoms. So that's really powerful, and it seems to actually have an additive effect when used with antidepressants. So that's awesome. And then coffee, coffee is a superfood. People can argue with me if they want. Coffee lovers are all unite. No, but actually, this coffee has been studied just over and over and over again to have amazing and positive benefits. So for those of you who enjoy the taste or can hack it just fine and like that sort of thing, then awesome. But I mean, really, do I need to say more? Caffeine in coffee can actually be a beneficial thing from a cognitive perspective. You can overdo it, so don't get crazy. But caffeine also has, coffee has a significant amount of antioxidants in it. And antioxidants, the reason those are important is because our body's constantly undergoing oxidative stress, oxidative damage, which produces these free radicals in our body that can cause damage. They can, things are happening in your body right now that are constantly breaking it down. And an antioxidant actually swoops in and kind of grabs that free radical and shakes it up and makes sure that it can't cause any damage. So coffee has an enormous amount of antioxidants. It's actually one of the largest sources of antioxidants in our current diets right now. Most people who are looking for caffeine in the morning look for it from coffee. And I'm talking like actual coffee. I'm not talking, frappa vanilla what a latte. Like that's a little different. That's like packaged caffeine with lots of sugar on it. I'm talking about actual coffee beans, actual good ground up, fantastic running good coffee beans. Also, coffee has gastrin in it, and gastrin can actually be a helpful regularity piece in your diet, meaning that it can help your digestive tract continue to work like it's supposed to. So coffee's on my list, mostly because I love coffee, but also because it would be considered a superfood. And there's a meta-analysis of 127 studies in your slide notes that I think you'll find really fascinating if you're interested in all the different ways that we've studied what coffee can do for people. Ginger is on my list here. Ginger can lower LDL cholesterol all by itself, which is crazy cool. And the only side effect was that people didn't like the taste of it. You had 160 people going through this cardiovascular study, and it's like, whoa, this does way better than Lipitor, which is a statin, which can have all kinds of crazy side effects. And the only side effect of ginger was like, I don't really like drinking ginger juice. Like, all right, no biggie. Ginger can also be positive for digestive healing. So the polyphenols and antioxidants in ginger, it actually seems to help the gut from a probiotic perspective, and also to lower inflammatory markers. It also has antiviral and antibacterial properties to it, which is powerful. It has a reduction in colon cancer noted with regular regular ginger. You don't want to consume tumors. Regular ginger consumption. And then also in men, this is something that we're studying more and more, is that ginger consumption on a regular basis raises testosterone. I'll say that again for the guys in the room. Ginger consumption raises testosterone. So that's cool. The fifth superfood that I've listed here is fatty fish. So it's super high in omega-3s, full nutrient profile, meaning that you have good fats and good proteins, complete proteins. And then I even included in your slide notes that men who ate salmon 3 days a week in a randomized controlled trial actually improved their sleep problems. So in this particular study, they split people into two groups, and one group was, hey, you should sleep better, turn down the thermostat in your room, and that would be helpful, and that sort of thing. And then the other group was instructed to change their diet such that they replaced the protein in their week 3 days a week with salmon instead of what they were currently eating, and that improved their sleep. So fatty fish on the superfood front. Oysters are on my list. I call those nature's multivitamin. They've got zinc, a complete protein profile, and then I also included a screenshot of what all is in oysters in your slide notes. It is insane. It looks like the nutrient profile for a multivitamin, but it's oysters, so take that. Goji berries, they're anti-carcinogenic, meaning that they actually seem to reduce several of the tumorous agents, especially in rat studies. In human studies, we've seen this a bit, not as high as in rat studies, because, well, we give rats cancer on purpose, and we don't do that with humans. But goji berries have also been studied to help with glaucoma, so eye protection. I've got a double stigmatism, so if I squint at you funny, that's what's going on. But I consume goji berries on a regular basis for that, and I also recommend them, not just for the anti-carcinogenic or eye protection, but in particular blood sugar stability. Many of the people who come to me from a coaching perspective are looking to decrease body fat, and if that's the case, usually that means that their blood sugars and their insulin are very unstable, and so goji berry powder can be a really powerful part of kind of stabilizing those things and making that, and that has actually been shown in research to improve insulin sensitivity and lower blood sugars. And then I just had to put berries in general, because blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, they're all on the list for blood sugar stability, fiber, and antioxidants. I have people all the time saying, what fruit should I eat? I don't want to be consuming a large amount of sugary carbohydrates that are going to be spiking my blood sugars if there's things I should be eating instead. And I'm constantly recommending berries. I'm constantly recommending people eat blueberries and blackberries and raspberries and strawberries. It's almost impossible, and I say almost because I know some people, but it's almost impossible to overeat berries. Having a cup of berries with a meal is 100% acceptable, if not awesome, as an addition to your diet. We got two more. Hang with me, and then I'll take some questions from my top picks here before I talk about incorporating these into your day and having open discussion about this. Kefir, some have pronounced it Kefir. I think that's actually the right way to say it, but I'm in Arkansas, so I'm going to say Kefir, and nobody's going to ask me weird questions. So Kefir is actually a powerful fermented dairy drink that has a large amount of probiotics in it. And the probiotics in kefir actually seem to combat negative microbials that would exist in your digestive tract. So the consumption of kefir on a regular basis can actually decrease things like diarrhea. It can actually decrease things like irritable bowel syndrome, again, ulcerative colitis, and then even some of those things like H. pylori, which is a parasite that can affect the digestive tract in a negative way, give you a lot of indigestion. Kefir can actually help to fight that as well. And it's super high in nutrients, high in magnesium, high in phosphorus, and those are really hard to get. Phosphorus, the key component in ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy molecule produced in the mitochondria of the cell. Phosphorus is one of those things that if you're lacking in phosphorus, you're going to have a really hard time in your body increasing your metabolism. So getting enough phosphorus in your life is really important, and kefir can actually be a great place to get that from. And last but not least, cinnamon, particularly the Ceylon kind. There's two kinds, the cheap stuff and the not so cheap stuff. The not so cheap stuff is the good stuff. The Ceylon cinnamon has been studied for insulin sensitivity, improving the way your blood sugars work, indigestion, even cognitive disease. Consuming cinnamon on a regular basis can actually reduce your proclivity toward dementia and Alzheimer's. In fact, there's a what is it called? The tau, the TAU, I think, is the name of one of the byproducts that collects in the brain that ruins the centers of the brain that are ruined in Alzheimer's. And consumption of cinnamon actually reduces the levels of those in the brain and reverses some of the issues that people experience with regard to Alzheimer's. I'm not saying it cures it. I'm just saying it can help. And that's crazy. That's something that we're studying heavily at the moment. And by we, I mean the scientific community. Antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral. If you haven't figured it out, I'm really stoked about cinnamon. So I've talked about a few things here. I want to show you how I kind of fit these into my day, just give you an example of what that might look like. So it's not like, whoa, man, my head's kind of spinning in the superfood world. But before I go on, I want to take questions because I've highlighted superfoods. I've talked a bit about some of the things that they can do here. I've even referenced several studies thus far, and I'm sure there's some stuff buzzing around in your guys' minds. So I'm going to pause for a second, open it up for questions, and check the chat as well. What's out there?
I was trying to get my stuff on.
You're good, man. What's up?
I don't know if you can see me.
I can see you.
I take this. This is like ginger capsules.
I was going to say,
So
stigmatism. I can't see what you're looking at. Okay, ginger.
Oh, it's ginger capsules. I didn't I didn't know if it was like if you wanted to get ginger in your diet, if you had to go actually buy a ginger root and just do it yourself, or if these are
Just start.
I don't know
Start
what
shredding.
form you have to do. I don't know what form you have to do it in. I just take ginger capsules.
That's a great question.
It's like
So
ginger.
does it matter how we get our ginger? They've studied several different forms of ginger. What they've done in studies is they've taken ginger in like a dried powdered form. You can buy that in like a seasoning. They've studied, taking teaspoons of that or putting it in foods that you're cooking and whatnot, and that seems to have a positive and beneficial effect.
I mean,
And that's actually what's in your capsule. Like you could probably break that open and taste it, and there's your ginger, right? The other way that it's been studied is through infusion. So personally, I prefer, because I enjoy the taste of ginger, not everybody does, so capsules would make sense, but I prefer to slice it up into thin slices, almost like ginger potato chips, and drop them in my tea and let it permeate my green tea, and then I drink that down. So good question. I think you're in a good spot with your ginger capsules. The only question is whether or not it's 500 milligrams versus 200 milligrams, and they've studied a bunch of different versions of that. So my advice to you would be take as directed on the bottle and see if you notice the difference that you're looking for digestively or testosterone wise.
2 capsules is 1,100 milligrams.
Perfect. That's good. The study that I had linked with some of your other studies in ginger was 1,000 milligrams. So that's about right.
This is like my 3rd bottle. So I mean, I do it every day.
So what you're saying is you're very He-Man-ish right now.
He-Man-ish, yeah.
Guys, who are you talking to?
No ginger for her, I'm sure. What's up, girl?
No.
Any other questions out there? That was a good one, Scott. Thank you.
Seems like it would be hard to add all this all of a sudden. And seems like some overlap the others. So is there like a like slowly get them all in there, pick and choose, try to get 2 1 week and 3 the next week? You alternate, because I think at one point in one of the workshops or something, you said like we need to have 31 different foods every week or something like that. And I'm going, okay, well, so what's I don't know, just a generic schedule.
A generic process for getting. So actually, I think you'll appreciate this slide that I'm getting to, where I show you what this looks like incorporated into an actual day.
I jumped the gun a little bit, I guess.
No, this is a really good question though. My first piece of advice is, if any of this sounds interesting to you, try the thing that sounds most interesting. Like do that first. Like try one thing at a time. But outside of that, you can run through the Sprouts grocery store and go, oh, aloe vera, that's interesting, I'll try that. Oh, oysters, I'll give that a shot.
Well, that's what I mean. I can start tomorrow with all these.
Right. Personally, I like to do things a little more slowly, because I like to see if they're going to make a difference for what I'm interested in, right? So ginger with the digestive tract, is it going to help me? Yes or no? Like if I had kefir and I had aloe and I had ginger and I had cinnamon, then I'm not going to know if any one of those things was beneficial to me. So personally, I like to do it a little more slowly, like 1 or 2 things that have differing effects, like ginger, for instance, and goji berries. Goji berries are working on blood sugar stability, and which you would notice from an energy perspective, whereas ginger is working on the cholesterol, digestive, and antiviral and bacterial, right? So like if you tried both of those at the same time, ideally it wouldn't actually be the same effects that you see. They wouldn't be contraindicated or working against each other to confuse you about what's actually working. So that's a really good question. Also, there's none of these that like are on the list of allergens except for oysters. Like you could have a shellfish allergy, and so it's not like trying goji berries is going to be like particularly harmful to you, or trying aloe vera is going to be particularly harmful to you.
So instead of eating fatty fish 3 times a week, can you take a supplement?
You had to ask, didn't you?
Of course.
So while there have been amazing studies done on omega-3 supplementation, I generally recommend the fatty fish, mostly because actually that question that you asked in the very beginning, which was about crowding out versus, eating like garbage and adding a superfood. Some people, when it comes to taking an omega-3 fatty acid, they're still getting so many omega-6 fatty acids in their diet through beef, for instance, or through processed meats, that adding a little bit of omega-3 fatty acid isn't really going to make much of a difference. So swapping the food out, saying, hey, instead of burgers on Monday night, let's have salmon instead. What that actually does is changes the ratio of omega-3s to omega-6 fatty acids in the diet, and you should have quite a bit of those. So anyway, that's a great question, and you can take that. I have a few clients who, no matter how many times I tell them how important things like salmon, mackerel, tuna, and sardines might be in their life, they're like, hell no, I'm not eating it, don't want anything to do with it, please stop saying that, I will take the supplement. So fine. But give it a shot, don't knock it till you try it. As Gabriel would say, would you eat it if you were starving? That's a really good question about whether or not you could develop a taste for it.
Smart kid.
I mean, I think so, but I'm biased. Great question. Thank you for that. Any other questions out there about the superfoods here? Awesome. All right. So I'm going to give you an idea of what that looks like in the day. And I'm going to pop past these in particular because I put them in your slide notes so that you're welcome to go over them at your leisure. These are just screenshots of pieces of the cited material that I sent you in your notes. So that said, you can look at these and they might kind of pique your interest. I just thought this was so crazy. Kefir grains contain up to 61 strains of bacteria and yeast, which offer a rich source of diverse probiotics. So cool. And then this is the neurodegenerative disease reduced by those tau in the brain because of cinnamon, which is so cool. Anyway, food's amazing when you start getting past the idea that food is just calories. Food is so amazing. So incorporating superfoods, an example. I listed all those foods on that list of my favorite superfoods. I have a few other favorites, and we can talk about those if you like, but I didn't want to bore you guys with just rapidly telling you all the things I love in the world. So not just because I enjoy eating them, but because they're good for me. But I wanted you to see what this looks like in a day. So this is just an example. This is not intended to be a meal plan prescriptive for any dietary or disease related issues. So upon waking, putting a little bit of maca in coffee. Maca is a superfood I didn't really talk about tonight, but it does have benefits. But coffee is one that I did talk about. So upon waking, enjoying a cup of coffee. At breakfast, some eggs with oatmeal plus cinnamon. There's the cinnamon. I tend to think that eggs could be on the superfood list too, but I didn't talk about that tonight either. Just a great source of complete proteins. Some of them can be really high in omega-3 fatty acids and super high in nutrients, but there's your cinnamon. For a snack, you could have a serving of kefir with a whole cup of blackberries, if that's something you enjoy. Both of those were on the superfood list. Green tea is considered a superfood as well. I didn't talk about that tonight, but green tea plus ginger is something you could have with your snack. This would be a really powerful thing to do in the mid-morning to, almost lunchtime thing. It would give you a pick-me-up. Green tea has L-theanine in it, which can actually help a racing mind. Ginger is great for the digestive tract, boosting that testosterone, dropping LDL cholesterol. Kefir is a positive benefit to the microbiome, and then blackberries is feeding that microbiome with fiber, and then also a huge dose of antioxidants and B vitamins in blackberries as well. So it's like a nice pick-me-up in the mid-morning. And then for lunch, having oysters, carrots, and bell peppers. You could also do a fatty fish there if that's something that you like to do, but just so that you see how this is incorporated in something I would do. And then a side of aloe vera juice. And there we've worked in the aloe vera juice, we've worked in the oysters, and we've continued to feed the microbiome because carrots and bell peppers are a great source of those prebiotic fibers. And then for a snack, you could do some Greek yogurt. I call this adult pudding. Greek yogurt with some local honey, some goji berry powder. It's like an orange powder. You can just sprinkle it on top of there. Makes like a nice orange pudding. It's so good. And then hemp parts. My youngest calls these crunchies. Hemp parts. They're like little tiny. They're a little bigger than seeds, but they're kind of crunchy. They've got phosphorus, magnesium. They're another superfood I didn't talk about this evening, but that's your snack between lunch and dinner. And then for dinner, you could cook your salmon with some turmeric and black pepper to really get that curcumin. Salmon's a fatty fish. You can get that curcumin to absorb really well with black pepper. Some brown rice and some broccoli. No, brown rice and broccoli are not considered superfoods, but still, they're a great way to round out that day. And this is what a day would look like if what you were eating was less about the calories that you were taking in and a little more about what these foods could actually do for you. And last thing I'll say about superfoods here, and we can open it up for discussion, is that we live in a time where we can get food from all around the world. That was not always the case. We live in a time where we can get food from all around the world. And what's wild is oftentimes, it's tempting for some reason to eat fried chicken wings when we could be boosting our immune system or improving ourselves in a way that our ancestors just didn't have access to. Although most of our ancestors would tell you that fried chicken wings taste like garbage and they would rather have local honey with their hemp parts, but that's another conversation altogether. But the superfood idea will really help to separate somebody's mind from the quantity of foods that I'm eating. Like, how many calories am I getting from XYZ versus, that's the energy model of the food, versus is what I'm eating doing the best thing for my body that I can find to put in it? Is what I'm eating doing powerful and positive things for me? It's not just is what I'm eating giving me energy. That's not hard today. Like, you can buy a box of Pop-Tarts for like $2 and there's 1,600 calories in this box, and it's just, I'm not even mad. I'm just impressed that you can fit that much energy into a $2 of something. I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. It's a lot of soybean oil and lots of corn, and wheat and sugar and a few other things, preservatives and MSG and all that stuff. But lots and lots of energy, right? We have to get away from thinking about our foods just in terms of energy. We have to get toward thinking, what could these foods bring to my life that are powerful, that my body can use in a good way? So this is an example of what that might look like in a day. And again, this is not intended to be a meal plan for you to follow, but I hope that helps. I intend for us to be able to chat through and have some open discussion here to close down the seminar. And like I said, I can, as we're finishing up our recording here, I'm very happy to go get some stuff out of my pantry if you guys want to see what it looks like or talk about it. But what's out there? What have I awakened in you that you're interested in discussing, so that we can tie up the superfoods chat in a good way? We've got a lot of chat.
Hi, Alex. It's Janet.
Hey, what's up, Janet?
How are you? Hey,
Fantastic.
sorry, I'm on the run, so it's no video. But the aloe and stuff like that, I guess that's especially for my dad, because he's had major IBS issues his entire life.
I'm sorry.
What do you suggest as far as like brand? Like, it's overwhelming to try to get decent brands of things and know that they're pure and whatnot and not garbage.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I can post that directly into the Better Daily comments, like send you a link to what I normally buy. What I will say is that
great.
the brand that has partnered with Walmart is actually really good. Like,
oh, good.
They're sourced really well. They don't add any garbage to it. Although you can get fruit punch flavored aloe vera juice. Don't get that. I don't know why you would do that. But anyway,
That sounds gross.
Yeah, I know, right? I've heard aloe vera juice is an acquired taste for some people. To me, it tastes like, I don't know. It tastes like ginger ale that's gone flat, I think.
Okay.
Katie's tried it with me. She's nodding her head too. Like, she's like, yeah, I know what that tastes like, flat ginger ale. But anyway, that said, my Walmart, because this, in my mind, it's a food. This is a food. It should be with the juice. like lemon
Yes.
juice and grape juice. It's not with the juice. And
Huh.
I'm about to tell you something, and it's going to make you not want to try it, but it has nothing to do. It's just whoever decided to put it here. It's right next to the stool softener. No, it's not a stool softener.
I've seen it
It is,
before.
yeah, it's not been
Yeah.
studied to soften your stool. I don't know why it's there. It's a misclassification of where this should go in the world. But anyway, it's right. It's usually in the pharmaceutical area. That's where I found it in my Walmart. But you can also buy it
Yeah.
online from them as well, and it comes in like a big jug, like a big
Okay.
3-gallon jug.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get some. I mean, I'll try it for myself too, but
Mm.
you know, he's had major issues his entire life, and I'm anxious to try it for him.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's rough. Yeah, aloe for IBS specifically, I would really recommend doing that aloe juice daily, and then
Okay.
I would definitely recommend that ginger and kefir,
Mm-hmm.
like those three
Okay.
together. Oh, don't do them all at the same time. Like spread them out through the day. Ginger tea,
Yes.
little aloe with lunch, you know, little bit of kefir as a snack, and that might be good.
Yeah, it does. That sounds really good. So I'm going to get him to try that.
Hmm.
So I appreciate, yeah,
Janet.
yeah.
Alex gave me a big old bottle of that, and it is in the stool softener aisle.
Okay.
But if you drink enough of it, it does have a laxative effect.
Yeah,
That's why he recommends.
Don't drink more than 4 ounces. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I did though, because in the refrigerator, that stuff doesn't keep for a long, long time. I mean, it does for, you know, as like about any other juice, but
Yeah.
I put mine in little ice cube trays and then put them in
Mhm.
baggies.
Well,
And
that's
it
a good
becomes
idea.
so much easier just to drop a couple of ice cubes in, so it cools my drink and I get the
Nice.
aloe as it kind of dissolves. So,
Aloe ice
That's a
cubes.
great idea.
That's a new one on me. I like it.
and they last forever in the fridge.
That's great. Good idea. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I will definitely try that. And I came home and I hadn't eaten dinner yet, so I just grabbed a pile of blueberries.
Good stuff.
Jared asked about what about chia seeds, and great question. Chia seeds are considered a superfood. Like if you Google superfoods, chia is really high in the plant version of omega-3s, and unfortunately it's marketed as like, hey, omega-3s are really good for you. It's not going to help you much from an omega-3 perspective. The plant conversion of omega-3s to the actual omega-3s that you incorporate into your cell is very low. You're only going to get about 10% of that. But that said, chia does have an amazing amount of soluble fiber in it. So if you take chia seeds and you add them to like yogurt or something, or add them to like a yogurt coconut milk mix or something, the actual seeds will swell up almost like tapioca and make like a really cool consistency. That chia yogurt is a thing, or chia pudding is a thing. So that said, if you're looking for a good source of soluble fiber, which is really hard to get in a diet usually, so chia seeds are a great source of that.
They have minimal protein too, as well as magnesium.
Yeah, you can find a pretty decent profile on those. They're a great seed. I mean, as far as nuts and seeds are concerned, chia's definitely at the top of the list of things worth eating.
That does sound good.
Jared said,
and what's
chia. He said chia is really good in oatmeal too. I haven't tried that. I'll have to give it a shot.
It probably is really good in oatmeal.
And Alex, I'm allergic to hemp. Is there anything else that's close to hemp as far as the benefits?
Yeah, I listed hemp specifically because of phosphorus, and you can get phosphorus from a lot of leafy greens. And then seafood, I'm always talking about sardines, but like you're actually getting a full, when you eat a sardine, everything that a animal requires, you just ate that.
Okay.
You say calcium and phosphorus and magnesium and manganese and all the, like everything that was in that little fish, you just got it all.
Oh, that's good.
So anyway, that's that seafood is a great source of that sort of thing as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, because I have I do the seaweed too, which I like.
Yeah. Awesome. Good question.
Oh, and thank you. And the last one was the maca. I lost connection. I was driving listening to this. I didn't know if you covered maca or not.
I did not, but I'd be
Okay.
happy to in a nutrition tip Tuesday or something. It's not on my list of
Okay.
like these are my favorites, but that doesn't mean it's not
Right.
a good one. I actually like
Okay.
to add it to my coffee. So
Yeah, I did
like,
that this morning.
nice. So I like the flavor of it. It's a great source of antioxidants. If I remember correctly, it actually has some cognitive benefits as well. I didn't even talk
Mhm.
about mushrooms like reishi mushrooms or lion's mane. That's its own can of worms altogether. Can of mushrooms,
Hmm.
maybe. But
Mhm.
sorry, that's my only joke tonight. Watch out, guys.
Mhm.
But the maca actually kind of falls into that. It's not a mushroom, but it falls into the category of similar effect. So great,
Mhm.
great thing to be adding to your coffee.
Okay.
Jared says, I only see maca in supplement form. Is it available whole? Usually it comes in a powder. Actually, I think, let me see if I can find that real quick. I have a slide where in one of the little bowls is maca. There it is. Right there. Right on the, I don't know, can you see me clicking on it? Oh, whoop. It's right above right beside the blueberries, right below the pumpkin seeds, right there. That's maca. And then the goji berries right beside the blueberries there, the little shriveled up red things, those are goji berries. But yeah, so you can usually find maca powder. Like you can find that in like a pouch or something. They've ground it up for you. Good question.
Yeah, I get mine at Trader Joe's a lot.
And yours comes in a powder form as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen whole maca at a grocery store.
I've never seen it.
Mark says, what about those green powders that claim to give you more than if you're eating 3 heads of lettuce? Yeah. I've seen that. It's like superfood greens. Like it's just like eating 40 servings of vegetables in 1 teaspoon. Yeah. So what those are claiming, and the reason they can say that is because these particular things are really, really high in antioxidants, right? What they've done is they've taken a bunch of plant material and have you ever used a juicer? Like you take like an apple and juice it. So you have your apple, you put it through the juicer, it's like and all the juice drips out, right? And so you get like an ounce of juice, and then you've got like a ground up apple over here. So that's what they do for these superfood powders is they take the ground up apple or the ground up whatever it is that's left over after extracting the juice, and they and this is a little simplified, but they compress it and they dry it and they compress it and they dry it and they make a powder out of it, not just apples, other things. And so they can say in this teaspoon of material, you have as many antioxidants as X servings of vegetables. It's really a marketing thing. It's just saying, hey, here's a mega dose of antioxidants. So that said, there are a few super greens powders or superfood powders. Like I get my goji berry in powdered form, and if you mix a little goji berry with a little powdered maca and maybe a little lion's mane mushroom, and you'd have a pretty cool powder that might actually have some great properties for you. But as far as like getting 40 servings of veggies in a teaspoon, like that's not the same thing. You're not getting the fiber, you're not getting many of the phytonutrients, you're just getting the antioxidants. So that's a great question, but they're marketing those sorts of things pretty hard. So I would stick to getting like a goji berry powder or a chia seed powder or maca powder, which is like, I'm doing this food for X reason. Because a lot of those superfoods, if you turn it over on the back, it says proprietary blend and it lists out like 50 foods. And the reason they do that is because they don't know how much of what food is in there. They're just, throwing a bunch of stuff in a vat and drying it and saying, hey, try that. It's really good for you. Also, you don't have to eat veggies, which is not true. Don't do that. You need those veggies. Oh no. Jared said, I tried superfood powder for a bit, but I might be allergic to spirulina. Spirulina is definitely one of the ones in there. Kat says they have super beets. Yes, beets. I didn't talk about those tonight, but those are actually on the ergogenic aid side of things. Beetroot juice has been shown to reduce muscle decomposition during intense workouts. So it could actually be a performance enhancing supplement that keeps you from wrecking your muscles. A lot of those guys who are doing like the Tour de France and stuff, they're doing cherry powder and beetroot juice because I say they're doing it like it's a drug, but they're keeping their muscles from breaking down under the intense load of what they're doing.
What about cabbage? Would you consider that a superfood?
If it's fermented, yeah, I love like your kimchi or your sauerkraut and whatnot.
Or the homemade slaw that I make?
Yes, exactly.
Especially red cabbage. Oh man, I love red cabbage.
Super high in polyphenols, and then the bacterial colonies that congregate on the cabbage and make it like a fermented food. Those are so good for your gut digestive tract. It's not as high on the nutrient side of things. Cabbage isn't as high as other foods like antioxidants and vitamins and minerals wise, but that's one of the reasons that bacteria love it so much, and that's why you can end up with a nice fermented cabbage that tastes pretty good, especially with lots of spiciness in it. and then that's really great for our gut. Good question. Nice. Man, you guys rocked tonight. I didn't expect it for everybody to be so super foodie. Thanks for that. I love it. Awesome. Well, I'm going to sign this off. If you guys want to hang out after and in chat for a bit, go right ahead, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We're hitting 8 p.m. So this has been Alex VanHouten with Better Daily. Superfoods are awesome. You should try them. That's my sign off. You guys have a good night.